Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
Oh, yeah. Raising hell on a Thursday morning, the fifth morning of the third month, of the year of our Lord 2026. Raising hell is what they're doing in Iran as well. And the left hates every single bit of it. Holy cow. Listening to them actually root for the United States to fail. Absolutely rooting for the United States to lose a war. Have you ever heard anything as outrageous as that? But that is exactly what is going on now. So good morning. We're going to touch on all of it this morning. We've got a couple of great guests to get us going today. In about a half an hour, a little bit less, we're going to be talking with Dr. Everett Piper. Dr. Piper is going to talk about the Iranian war effort and, should we be calling it a war effort because it is not a declared war? It's one of those stupid semantic things, honestly. There's just frustrating. There's a war going on, but it's not a war. It's not a forever war. It's not it's not any more of a war than it was when we, bombed Libya with Barack Obama bombing Libya for 7 straight months. It never got declared a war, and the left never freaked out about it because it was Saint Barack. He could do no wrong. But we're 5 days into this particular engagement, and it's already been branded forever war by the left. It's just radical and stupid, and it is, I guess, what we've come to expect from them. But Dr. Piper will talk to us about that, along with the war on Israel. And it has nothing to do with Iran in this case. It's the war on Israel from here in the United States, from the microphones of people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. I talked to Dr. Piper last night, actually, about this, and it is beyond it's beyond disturbing to listen to the weird anti-Semitic propaganda that has just flooded, I guess, the programs of these very, very popular, podcasters or whatever you want to call them. It really has. It has flooded and polluted maybe their thinking and their messaging. And it's really, really disturbing. And Dr. Piper's had enough of it. Dr. Piper is one of the most, he's an evangelical. He is, a true Christian, and Christ is king. All of that is true, but he is so disgusted by the treatment of Jews by people like these who have just become more and more anti-Semitic by the day. And no matter what happens, Israel is the devil, according to these people. And so I talked to him last night, so I already know what he's going to say. And you're going to have that coming up here in about a half an hour at about 7:30, because we've got to clear the decks for 8:30 when the chairman is in. The chairman being Congressman Jim Jordan. And Jim Jordan had himself a day yesterday, taking Tim Walz to the woodshed in a congressional hearing over the fraud in Minnesota. Not only Tim Walz, but Keith Ellison as well, taken down and apart and exposed for allowing, if not specifically being responsible for, all of the Somali fraud in the state of Minnesota and in the Twin Cities in particular that we have all been watching unfold. And then we have to talk about Ohio's role, or not role, but the participation, if you will, of the state of Ohio in this kind of fraud too. Headline yesterday in the Steamer on Cleveland.com, Ohio child care providers warn new anti-fraud bill could destabilize the industry. This is what we're fighting against, you guys. It's incredible. There's massive amounts of fraud going on in our state, too, because of our massive Somali population, just like that in Minneapolis. That's why I'm glad Congressman Jordan's in the middle of this, because he's ours. And he's, of course, working on behalf of the country in judiciary. But think about this. There is a piece of state legislation, House Bill 647, that just went through its third hearing this week. And the goal is to end the fraud in the childcare and in some of the other industries that we have all been covering for the last 2 months. And there's massive pushback by Democrats in the Ohio State House and just in Ohio generally, in which they're complaining, but if they actually end all the fraud, it's going to take some of the money out of the program, and it's going to weaken the ability of us to provide childcare in the childcare industry. You should have told that to the fraudsters. We're going to get into all of that. So Dr. Piper and Congressman Jim Jordan are going to be our guests this morning, and I'm very much looking forward to those conversations. We have a lot of things to cover in between now and those guests, however, including, as I said, not as I said, I didn't say it yet, a break last night, a massive break in the case of the 2 girls who were found murdered and stuffed in suitcases and buried in Cleveland. There was a third girl involved as well that apparently has been rescued. And I've got a Cleveland police source that told me this last night, that they did it. They found the individual responsible, and you're going to be shocked and disgusted probably when you hear who it is. I'll give you that in a moment too. First, flip calendar, daily motivational quote of the day or inspirational quote of the day. For 5th of March, you can only make others better by being good yourself. From Hugh R. Hannells. Again, don't know who it is. Might be a poet, might be a business leader, motivational speaker, philosopher, who knows? But I like my flip calendar, quote a day calendar. All right, guys, I want to give you an update on that story first, just because so many people here are hyper local. And good morning to the chatters, by the way. Everybody that's up in the house at this hour. Good morning to, who do I see? I see Linda. Hey, Linda, good morning. I see Fours Freedom. Don't know that handle. Maybe a newbie. DB Jones. Uncle Odie, J Bell might be a new one. Sally. I know Sally. She's a regular. She's got her seat at the end of the bar. Marty. Ari Tron, Black Belt. Dee Bag of Donuts. Fred Frog. Roz. Macromia. SRL. I see you guys. The regulars are all in the house. Sharon. Megan Staffy, that might be a new one. Good morning, Megan. I'm glad to see this. Like I said, I always like to ask you, who did you bring new to the party today? Buckeye Therese is a regular, more politically incorrect mechanic, is up and working hard already this morning. Queen Morning, good morning. Appreciate all you guys very much. So many people are Northeast Ohio centric. I should probably give you this. This was a TikTok that was sent to me this morning by somebody that I don't even know. Wait. Somebody that I do not even know. It was sent to me by somebody I know. The TikTok is from somebody I don't know, is what I mean to say, though. So let me share this with y'all. Yeah, let me do it a little bit better if I can. We'll do this. There we go. And I'm going to try to enlarge that for you too. But this is a TikTok video, a very short one from somebody named TikTok Dude. It's his account, but it's a Cleveland story about what I just told you about. Let me tell you let me set the table here for you before I even play the short video. So I got this message last night from a Cleveland police source that says very specifically, we got him. Hang on. I'm remembering it from last night. Here it is. We got her. Sorry, not we got him. We got her. We got her. The two girls' mother killed them and buried them in suitcases that a guy walking his dog found in a field. Saved their 6-year-old sister from the same fate, we believe. Just got back. An animal booked on murder. That was what I got from a police source. And then this morning I was sent this. And this is, again, a TikTok account with whom I have no familiarity at all. It just says TikTok Dude, but it was sent to me. And it does indeed have a brief piece here on what happened yesterday in Cleveland. And if you can't see that screen, I don't know if I can make this much bigger. I'll try. See if that helped a little bit. Maybe. You can't fit it all in, though, but we'll do our best here. Cleveland's East Side, a 28-year-old woman identified as the girl's mother has been apprehended and charged with murder and endangering children in connection to the discovery of two young girls found in separate suitcases earlier this week. So let's see if we can get the whole thing in here and watch. What the fuck?
Well, I took my dog out. I always walk her over across the street. And she stopped. It was like a pile of dirt. And she stopped sniffing. And I usually just walk and she catch up with me. And she was taking too long. So I went back and looked. And it was a suitcase that was like half buried. And I pulled it up and looked in it. It was a head. Somebody's head in it. And I immediately called the police.
it. So, like I said, not much to it, but that was the individual who, according to the TikTok, literally called the police and reported the gruesome discovery. And it's what are you going to say about it? There's not too much you can say about the inhumanity of sometimes of humans, but there it is. This is a horrific situation in which, according to the report, the mother of the girls has been arrested and charged, and the 6-year-old child was barely saved from the same fate, according to what we have been told. So that's what I've got for you on that front, on the local news front. So not much more that I can say about that, other than that is horrific. And I'm so glad. I'll tell you what I will say. We're having our ICE party tomorrow. It's not just for ICE. It is ICE focused. The proceeds are going to the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. A portion of the proceeds are going to the feds, but we are celebrating and thanking all cops tomorrow. That's, law enforcement just in general. And this is an example of some phenomenal law enforcement work inside in less than a week since those heads were reported and the suitcases and so forth. Detectives went to work, and including one of our own, and that I talk to on a regular basis. You can probably figure out who that is. And they went to work and they found this and pinpointed it and stopped. Not only did they make the arrest, but stopped her from, it is believed to be her next plan, which was to kill the other daughter. So there's a very brief story on it on the Steamer website, I believe. And I don't even know. I don't know if I have that handy here. But yeah, they're just saying it's a person of interest. They're not even saying what I was just telling you about it, being the child's mother. They're saying a person of interest was arrested. The 2 victims that were found in the suitcases were half sisters. Police said officers executed the search warrant Wednesday night in the area in the South Collinwood neighborhood. Person was detained, not arrested. That's not what I'm told this morning. That the person has been arrested and charged. The bodies of the young girls were spotted Monday by a resident walking his dog. You just saw him near the Gann Academy. One girl between 8 and 13, the other between 10 and 14. Both children are Black. Authorities collaborating with Child Services and the school district to identify the girls. And that's where we are for now. So just a really, hyper sad, I guess, if not infuriating story from right here in Northeast Ohio. So that's the story that we have for you as of right now. All right, to the bigger story. And there's really no other way to describe it. We're in a war situation. If we cannot say we are at war, we are in a war situation, and everyone is still debating and everybody is still discussing whether or not it was or is a righteous war event, battle, attack, strike, targeted strike on Iran, whether or not it was justified. But I want to share something with you because this is pretty remarkable. Marco Rubio is our Secretary of State, and he's been one of the lead voices explaining to the American people and to the press, of course, who are automatically, pronouncing him and them because they work for Donald Trump guilty of something or another. Marco Rubio has been one of the leading voices explaining what's going on and why it's going on because of the threat of Iran. And he has been just phenomenal in that effort. He's one of the best communicators, I think, to come down the line in federal government in a very, very, very long time. Marco Rubio is an exceptional communicator. And you cannot trap him. There's nothing that he's not prepared for. He's probably the best Secretary of State we have had. I mean, honestly, and I don't know. I don't even know how many years, decades probably. But what is amazing is it's not new. What he is saying about the Iranian threat is not new. This is 2026. Marco Rubio has been talking about this very same thing for 11 years now. This goes back to 2015. I want you to watch and I want you to listen to what consistency sounds like and what accuracy sounds like, because this is Senator Rubio from 2015. Senator Rubio then, Secretary Rubio now.
Of this deal have already been said. I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships, continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women. And they may or may not deny that they're involved, but they will target us and raise the price of our presence in the Middle East until they hope to completely pull us out of that region. They'll also continue to build long-range missiles, missiles capable of reaching the United States. Those are not affected by this deal, and they'll continue to build them as they've been doing. And then at some point in the near future, when the time is right, they will build a nuclear weapon. And they will do so because at that point they will know that they have become immune, that we will no longer be able to strike their nuclear program because the price of doing so will be too high. This is not just a work of imagination. It exists in the world today. It's called North Korea, where a lunatic possesses dozens of nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can already reach the United States. And we cannot do anything about it. An attack on North Korea today would result in an attack on Tokyo, or Seoul, or Guam, or Hawaii, or California. And so the world must now live with a lunatic in possession of nuclear weapons. And this is the goal Iran has as well, to reach a point where they become immune to any sort of credible military threat because the price of a military strike would be too high. And then they become an established nuclear weapons power. And never in the history of the world has such a regime ever possessed weapons so capable of destruction. Iran is led by a supreme leader who is a radical Shia cleric with an apocalyptic vision of the future. He is not a traditional geopolitical actor who makes decisions on the basis of borders or simply history or because of ambitions. He has an religious apocalyptic vision of the future, one that calls for triggering a conflict between the non-Muslim world and the Muslim world, one that he feels especially obligated to trigger. And he's going to possess nuclear weapons. This is the world that we are on the verge of leaving our children to inherit. And perhaps we ourselves will have to share in it. And so I want to be recorded for history's purposes, if nothing else, to say that those of us who opposed this deal understood where it would lead. And we are making a terrible mistake. And I fear that the passage of this deal will make it even harder for us to prevent it. And I hope that there is still time to change our minds. But here's the good news. Iran may have a supreme leader, but America does not. In this nation, we have a republic, and soon we will have new leaders, perhaps in this chamber, but also in the executive branch. And I pray that on their first day in office, they will reverse this deal and reimpose the sanctions and back them up with a credible threat of military force, or history will condemn us for not doing what needed to be done at this critical moment in the world's history. I yield the floor.
I'm telling you, that guy was spot on in 2015. He is spot on now, and he has become an absolute political force, almost in his own right, almost apart from his tremendous support for and work with the Trump administration as the Secretary of State. He's becoming his own political force. You take that, what you just heard from 2015, he said, I want to be recorded for history. Here we are 11 years into that future, and we're looking back at that, and he was spot on then, and we're seeing it all play out now. And then, of course, what happened about 2 weeks ago when he went to Munich and gave one of the best speeches on foreign policy and international relations and American strength that we have heard in probably 50 years. Just tremendous, tremendous. I don't want to sit here and fanboy over Marco Rubio too much here. It's just that he is such an articulate, brilliant representative of what I believe is right. American strength must be put out on display for all of our enemies to note, not only for Iran, who, of course, has now been just decimated by the Trump administration and by the strikes coordinating with Israel. But every bad actor in Europe and every bad actor around the world needs to be aware of this, that American strength is how peace is going to be kept. If we have to take out one, and this has been something every president since 1979 has promised to decimate Iran, to take Iran apart. They may not have promised a bombing campaign, but they said, we are going to stop Iran from being able to support and promote and wage terrorism in the Middle East and around the world. Everybody said it. Nobody did it. Trump did it. And so this moment in time is important for that regard. And as long as I'm sharing with you tremendous messages, I want to give this one to you now. This is the Secretary of War. Used to be called Secretary of Defense till we went back to old school when the country was founded. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, laying out the mission and how it's being conducted.
We will avenge them, no doubt. But I liken Iran's predicament to a football team who scripted the first 20 plays of a game. The team knew what plays to run because their first few drives were scripted. But now that the game has started and the blitz is on, they don't know what plays to call, let alone how to get in the huddle and call those plays. Iran's senior leaders are dead. The so-called governing council that might have selected a successor, dead, missing, or cowering in bunkers, too terrified to even occupy the same room. Senior generals, mid-level officers, enlisted ranks, they can't talk or communicate, let alone mount a coordinated and sustained offensive. That's not great for morale. The Iranian Air Force is no more, built for 1996, destroyed in 2026. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated, pick your adjective. In fact,
I just love the messaging, and I love the fact that we are not playing with these people anymore. We are not pulling any punches. We are calling things the way that they are, and that is exactly what has to happen. We have effective messengers. There's no ambiguity whatsoever. And for what's really frustrating, or what is frustrating to me, is that the left continues to paint this as something that it's not, that we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And that's what all the hearings were yesterday. The Senate defeated a motion yesterday, a bill yesterday to try to force the war operations to cease. Again, I won't call it a war operations to cease. It was defeated, and as well it should have been. So there's a lot to discuss on this, and we're going to get into all of it very, very shortly. But we're also going to get into it with Dr. Everett Piper, who's going to join me after this very short time. If you're on Medicare and ever find yourself confused by your coverage, you're not alone. Medicare can be complicated, and the wrong information or no information at all can cost you time, money, and peace of mind. Hey, it's Bob France. For a Medicare professional I know and trust, Mark King. I've known Mark for years, and I've confidently referred Medicare recipients to him time and time again because he puts people first and explains Medicare in plain English. Mark takes the time to help you understand how Medicare works, what coverage you have, and what options might be available based on your needs. There's no pressure, no confusion, and no rushed decisions. Just honest guidance from someone who's been doing this for nearly 40 years and who knows this system inside and out. If you're unsure about your doctors, your prescriptions, or your overall coverage, Mark is the go-to guy you need. Call 440-832-8936 to get an appointment. That's 440-832-8936. And for user-friendly information, visit keepingmedicaresimple.com. I trust Mark King for answers, and you can too. All right, there you go. That's a very important message, and I want everybody to remember two things. Number one, what I say there about Mark King and about keeping Medicare simple is absolutely accurate. That's really, really important for you to note. And what else I want you to know is that Mark King is to be thanked for being a foundational sponsor for this program. He has been an absolute warrior for me and for this program to help us get our feet underneath us in these first 2 months of the program, and to make sure that we have the some of the resources anyway we need. We need some more support, but some of the resources we need to build this up, make it bigger and broader and more impactful, which of course is our goal. All right, Dr. Everett Piper, as I said, Dr. Piper joined me yesterday for a tremendous conversation. I did this last night, and I want to share it with you now. Don't forget, after this one, I've got Jim Jordan coming up at 8:30 this morning. But our regular Thursday commentator and guest for many, many years on this program has been Dr. Everett Piper, which you probably already know. So let's go ahead and bring him on. All right, as promised now, it is a Thursday, and for many, many Thursdays, for many, many years, I get used to hearing the wisdom and the brilliance of our next guest. He is a former university professor extraordinaire. He is a best-selling author. He is a columnist. He is a podcast radio host, and he is one of the strongest pundits, conservative pundits, I think, working in America today. A sought-after speaker. He is our... All right, for one reason or another, that's not working the way I want it to work, so hang on for a second here while I try to make this a little bit more visually appealing for you. This should be not that difficult to do, but it is becoming such. Let me drop back 10 yards and punt real quick, and I'll come back and give you the true conversation with Dr. Everett Piper. So chill out for just a moment, and we will set you up.
With due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
That's right. That's right. We figured it out. We are going to make it our finest hour, despite the little video glitch there. So, yeah, now I've got Dr. Piper ready to go for you here from last night. Yeah, you are seeing double right now, but I will fix that as soon as we get the interview back going again. Here we go. Very own. I call him mine because I rent him every week. He is Dr. Everett Piper joining us now on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Dr. Piper, do you feel like a rented mule sometimes when I keep dragging you back to my episodes, wherever I might be?
Well, a mule, or as some may refer to me in a less flattering way. You're
Well done.
but yeah.
Well done. Yes, sir. Well, Dr. Piper, there's a lot of stuff we want to talk about on this Thursday, so I appreciate you being here. We're gonna get into Iran momentarily.
Sure.
A little while anyway, because obviously it's the number one story in the world right now. The United States doing something that, Donald Trump doing something that presidents really since 1979 and the Islamic Revolution there, have been promising to do, which is to stabilize that region by taking the big bully down. They're making everybody else less safe in that region. Finally, somebody did it, and now he is actually being condemned for doing it. So we're going to get into the ramifications, the justification of the war and all. But a directly impacted player in all of this in the Middle East, of course, is the nation that Iran and the Ayatollah, the late Ayatollah Khamenei, has said must be destroyed. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, and we will wipe Israel off of the map. So Israel is in play, and Dr. Piper, it's just coincidental that on Sunday last, you wrote about Israel, and you wrote about its occupants, the Jews, and one of the most vile anti-Semitic Jew haters and anti-Zionist Israel haters working in media today. And I'll let you take it from there. This is something you and I have talked about a lot, actually, in the past, but you went full column on it this time. Take it away.
Yeah. Let's just cut to the chase. We're going to talk about Candace Owens. And the irony here, or the sad fact, I don't know if it's ironic or the sad fact, is that the two words, Candace Owens, will engender about as much controversy and division within the conservative movement right now that I've ever seen. I'm stunned by it. I didn't see it coming. I really didn't. I think I've got my finger on the pulse of what's going on in our culture, especially working in the Ivory Tower and the Academy for as long as I did. I'd like to consider myself relatively well informed to the point where I can kind of see stuff coming down the pike. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see the anti-Semitism from the right, from Tucker Carlson, from Candace Owens, from Megyn Kelly, at least sympathizing with these comments from Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson platforming Nick Fuentes, and Candace Owens, who's worked for Dennis Prager and worked for Ben Shapiro, now going full on anti-Semitic. embracing the protocols of the elders of Zion nonsense and the Talmudic Jew, both anti-Jewish tropes that have been discredited. They were authored back in
Explain those for those who don't know, Dr. Piper, what you're talking about.
The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a document that was written, if I recall correctly, I think it was initially authored in the late 1800s. And then it became popular in the early 1900s, 1902, 1905, if my memory is right on the date. And then Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich picked it up. It claims to be a historical document that discloses the Jews' intent to dominate the world. Well, we know that it's a fraudulent document. Historians have debunked it long ago. It's a plagiarized document from a satire piece of a dialogue between Machiavelli and I forget the other, between Machiavelli and Montesquieu. So there was an author in the late 1800s. He wrote this satire dialogue between Machiavelli and Montesquieu, and it was an anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic rant. They were talking about how it was the Jews are going to take over the world. They have this plan of world domination. That's the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's loaded with nonsense. It wasn't even intended to be historical initially. And then some guy comes along in the early 1900s and he plagiarizes a lot of this satire, and people started taking it seriously, and Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich used it in a lot of their anti-Semitic buildup to the Holocaust. And the Muslim world still refers to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion as being a historically accurate document. And Candace Owens is now waving that flag. This is nutty. There is no academic integrity whatsoever in what she says when she talks about this plan that's referenced and documented in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Anybody who ever says anything about that document is a nut job. They don't know what they're talking about. They're an anti-Semite, and they're looking for justification for their hatred of the Jews. And that's what Candace Owens is doing. Now, the Talmudic Jew was written earlier than that. I think it was written in the mid-1800s. And this is a document that talks about a lot of the evils of the Jewish tradition. And one of the evils of the Jewish tradition is they believe anybody who's not a Jew is an animal, should be treated like animals. Okay, this is not true. The Talmud does not say that. Dennis Prager and others have actually sat down and gone through Candace Owens' accusations and her claims about what the Talmud says, and it does not make any of these claims. Again, it's an anti-Semitic trope.
Is that where the blood libel comes from, Dr. Piper?
Blood libel. Some people think blood libel comes from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, but it doesn't. It precedes that. Blood libel actually goes back to the 1st century, and it comes out of the Hellenistic culture where there were already anti-Semitic claims about Jews using Greeks. Okay, not even Christians at that point. Jews executing Greeks and using Greek blood in their matzah for Passover. And then that evolved into Jews executing Christian children and using Christian children's blood in their matzah for Passover. It's all nonsense. There's no historical documentation whatsoever to support these claims. People, this does not take place. It just doesn't. In fact, all of these claims would be antithetical to any Orthodox Jew who follows the teachings of the Old Testament. And
what are they using though to make these claims? I mean, they can't just say, you say it doesn't exist, and they say that. They have to be citing something. It's written somewhere, but by whom and how has it been debunked as being, everything you just described, just completely non-existent fiction?
I believe, now you may be catching me on this one. I believe the Talmudic Jew, that's the name of the document. I believe the Talmudic Jew actually references blood libel. Okay. I did some research on the Protocols of the Elders of Zion because it was always my understanding that blood libel is perpetuated in that document. My recent research says that it isn't necessarily perpetuated in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It's not refuted. There's a lot of other evil claims in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion with regard to Jews and their culture. But the Elders of Zion primarily focuses on the plan for world domination. It's the Jews, It's Mossad. It's Bibi Netanyahu. They want to take over the world. It's the Hollywood Jews. Does this sound familiar? This is what Candace Owens is saying every day. And this is what Tucker Carlson is claiming when he says that it's safer for Christians to live in an Arab state, a Muslim state, than it is in Israel. That's nonsense. I don't know why Tucker would ever claim that, other than he's getting it out of the elders of Zion. And I believe, historically speaking, that the Talmudic Jew actually speaks of the blood libel lie. And
I think it does too. You know, you're talking about your older research and your more recent research. My research really exists to just listening to Dennis Prager. He has talked about this and he has completely debunked, you know, the blood libel nonsense that people like Candace and others are spewing. I just wondered if you had like a, you know, a fresh description of how, you know, where it comes from and how Dennis is such a brilliant man. And he has written so many, you know, his series of the Rational Bible explaining all of the books of the Old Testament. It's just really a remarkable thing. But he gets into the debunking of things like this. And Dennis, of course, is I mean, you know, I think Dennis kind of brags about this, that he's brought more people to Christianity than Christian evangelists do. You know, and he's a Jew because he is a Jewish or a Christian loving Jew and a believer in the Judeo-Christian you know, country and history, you know, of the Bible. So he is just a wonderful friend to Christians, and all of the research he has done is to bring people to God, the same God, you know, regardless of whether you're a Christian or Jew. So I've listened to Dennis for so many years, and I probably should read more than I have on Dennis, but the blood libel and some of the things that you're talking about that Candace is bringing up right now, people do need to know about its history and about just as thoroughly how it has been, you know, debunked. I hate that phrase, you know, about debunking conspiracy theories, but it's what has to happen. People need to disprove the lies of history that people like Candace are spewing in order to, you know, to really, you know, you have to do your homework, I guess, to really refute them and not just say, I don't believe it, you know, and move on. I like the actual anti-history, if you will, you know, or call it what they're doing, anti-history, and to debunk it with real truth and real history. And this is the point I'm trying to make.
what they're perpetuating is lies. I don't even use the word conspiracy theory because I think some theories about conspiracies could be true. There's nothing that can be true about this. This is a blatant anti-Semitic Jew-hating lie. That's all it is. That's all it ever has been. That's what Hitler used to justify the Holocaust. It's what the Muslims use today to justify their hatred of Israel. And it's what people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are using to justify whatever has led them to the point to distrust and malign Jews in such a gossipy and malicious way. I don't understand it, but that's what they're doing. There's nothing true about these claims. Stop and think about it. People, if you're a Christian of any stripe, if you're Protestant or Catholic, if you're Baptist, if you're Anglican, or if you're Assembly of God, if you're charismatic, I don't care. If you're a Christian of any stripe, you believe in the Bible. You believe in the New Testament and you believe in the Old Testament. And if the Old Testament teaches anything, it teaches us that the people of God, whether they be Jew or whether they be born again Christians, it teaches us that the people of God honor the Imago Dei, the image of God. We honor other people. The Old Testament is replete with stories about how the Jewish people, how Israel was punished for embracing the behaviors of the pagan nations around them. They fell into sin. They started worshiping the same gods and doing the same stuff as the pagan nations around them, the Canaanites. And what did these people do, these Canaanites, these pagan? They sacrificed children to the god Moloch. And God judged them because they committed this sin. So why in the world would you believe that Jews today are ignoring the teachings that have come their way through the Old Testament and are doing that when they know? Ben Shapiro knows, Dennis Prager knows, any believing Jew, practicing Jew, Orthodox Jew knows that his heritage is one where our people were judged in the ancient days for doing this stuff. They're not going to do it now. They're not going to embrace it now.
That is a great point. And I'm going to play something here in a moment that I asked you about, or asked you for, which is some of the worst with of Candace Owens from her show. I won't watch. I've got her blocked or muted or whatever on my X feed because I don't want to see her anymore. I'm done. And to be truthful, I hesitated to have this conversation with you tonight or today because I'm quite frankly don't want to platform her anymore. But it's not like on my small podcast or your small podcast, it's going to matter to her multi-millions of viewers. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But I didn't see this coming either. In fact, I defended her and gave her the benefit of the doubt about a year and a half ago, maybe now, when she said something, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It may have had to do with the Blood Bible. Pardon?
Was it Kanye West when she defended him?
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was directly related to Kanye West, but whatever it was, she was attacking a rabbi from California by the name of Michael Barclay and another prominent rabbi, and attacking them for whatever it was. I can't recall, but Rabbi Barclay did a video and wrote a column that ran in which he basically challenged her to a discussion or a debate on her accusations. And it was the first time that I had heard her kind of start to leave what we kind of know as our own conservative ecosystem. She had become a rising star with Daily Wire, working with Ben, as you mentioned, and Michael Knowles and all of those folks. And so when she did this, I thought, she's not really saying this. She's not really being anti-Semitic about this, Rabbi Barclay. I mean, come on. So I invited Rabbi Barclay onto what was then my radio show, and he came on and we talked about it. And I said, I don't think she meant it this way. I think she meant it this way. I was ascribing to her the best possible motives as a Christian, because she's a believer that Christ is king and all the rest. And I don't think she was doing this. And we had a great conversation, Rabbi Barclay and I did. And he challenged her to a discussion, and they had one. They actually went on, I think it was Candace's show together. And she kind of cut him off more than she let him talk. And she basically proved me wrong. She was every bit as aggressive at that time as Rabbi Barclay accused her of being. And it did not go well. And from that point forward, it's only gotten progressively worse. Right. Since that time, I've interviewed Rabbi Barclay 5 or 6 times. And you were right, sir. Oh my goodness gracious, whatever happened? So she has really lost it. Go ahead, Dr.
I want to bring your attention back to a conversation you and I had, probably back around the time of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because I kind of went soft on Tucker Carlson on your show. And I said, well, Candace Owens has lost it. Okay, she's clearly an anti-Semite. Nick Fuentes, no question, he's an anti-Semite. I'm not sure about Tucker Carlson, I said. And you challenged me. You said, no, he is. And I thought at the time, it's kind of like I wasn't there yet, because people were criticizing Carlson for what he said at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk when he referenced some analogy of people sitting around and eating hummus. Okay, and everybody started accusing him of using an anti-Semitic slur. And I thought, a lot of people eat hummus. I eat hummus. I don't think you have to be a Jew to eat hummus. I think we jumped the shark here. I think we've gone too far. And I don't believe that anymore. I was wrong. You were right. I was wrong. Tucker has leaned into this, and he's proven it through his apology tour through the Arab nations, where he's elevated Islam and disparaged Israel at every turn. So, Bob, you were right. Tucker was something that I didn't see.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people who were talking about it then, but a lot of people who defended it too. And I hated even recognizing it and seeing it in him, because I was a huge fan when he was on Fox News. And I was on the boycott Fox News bandwagon when they fired him, because, I just thought that was, oh my gosh, what are you doing? He's one of the true champions of this. But he and Candace have both either, like we like to say, somebody gets red pilled, to become more conservative. Something happened in them and they actually got, anti-Semitic pilled at some point, or they've always been that way. And they've been kind of maybe double agent style, planting themselves, infiltrating the true Christian conservative movement to be one of us in order to then try to convert more of us to their anti-Semitism. I don't know which it is, but I know they're both there. And watching their responses to the attack on Iran is evidence enough, as well as Well, we'll get into the Erica Kirk part of the Candace Owens story as well in a moment.
Right.
But so I asked you before we came on here, Dr. Piper, to give me a couple of the worst clips of just examples of Candace Owens and her anti-Semitism. And these are the two that you sent me. We'll play the first one. It's about 3 minutes long. Feel free to call cut. Tell me when to stop when you want to respond to something that you hear from Candace Owens. Because I want everybody. All right, as
God's people this way, I would suggest you tap the brakes a little bit, because you are told in your heart, you know it's wrong. I had to go somewhere. And the diaspora led them to various different parts of the world. And the Jews that ended up in Poland and Germany and Russia are Ashkenazi Jews. Now,
patience with this, just a couple of editing glitches here. I do want you to see the entire Candace Owens video here that I was referencing with Dr. Piper. So we're going to try to time this up here. Here we go. Because I want everybody to know what we're talking about. And again, I don't take this position lightly either. I defended her. I really, really liked her and her conservative Christian mindset, which was very, very well articulated until she either got anti-Semitic pilled or until she just revealed what she always has been. I don't know which. But Dr. Piper, I'll let you, like I said, you kind of guide this whenever you want to jump in and respond to something. Here we go.
Okay, you guys, I need you to listen very carefully. A little bit of history, I'm going to go through it quickly. You have probably heard, maybe vaguely, the conspiracy, quote unquote conspiracy, people who print the textbooks, that we're being ruled by the Khazarian mafia, right? This empire that existed 8th and 9th and 10th century and then magically disappeared. Nobody knew. It was a Turkic tribe. They were a nomadic tribe, and then they mass converted to Judaism. And they mixed in, okay? They mixed in with people who were actually Jews. And they call this a conspiracy, that the people that live in Israel right now are the Khazarian mafia. In 1881, the Russian Tsar was assassinated by a Jewish revolutionary gang from what was known as the Pale of Settlement. After the assassination, many of the associated people that were involved, or gang that put together, they emigrated to Italy. They emigrated to the United States. You learn this in your textbook as there were pogroms and no context, for no reason, kicked out of a country. There's actually no evidence they were ever kicked out, but they left. The revolutionaries left. And there were actually, all throughout this time frame, by the way, these sorts of revolutions happening all across Europe, trying to overthrow and divide Christian kingdoms. Deeply organized revolutions. And then they emigrated in mass into the United States as victims. And they brought with them their revolutionary ideas. I like to say they were anarchists, obviously, but also you should think of them as gypsies in the truest sense of the word. They will learn any language, become what they have to come, move wherever they need to move, and wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. They're just murderous communists. I don't know what to tell you. Established racketeering, mafias. You guys know unions are associated with mafia and the mafia.
Okay. Wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. Who's she referring to? She's referring to Jews. So what she just said, after she gave this inaccurate description of who these Jews are. First, she's suggesting that these Jews aren't real Jews. Did you catch what she said? They're kind of half-breeds, if you will. Yeah. They might have a little Jewish blood, but they're not real Jews. That's what she just got done telling you. That's not true. There have actually been studies done on Ashkenazi Jews, which is nothing more than Jews that had immigrated to the north toward Germany and Russia. That's all that is, okay? So when the Jews had to leave Israel, okay, they had to go somewhere. And the diaspora led them to various different parts of the world. And the Jews that ended up in Poland and Germany and Russia are Ashkenazi Jews. Now, there have been DNA tests that have been done since 2013, 2017. It's one of those 2 dates, not all that long ago, to find out if these people are really of Jewish blood. And there were over 1,000 people that agreed to be tested, and guess what? They are Jews. Their Jewish blood is relatively pure, like 90%. So everything she's saying right now is false. These aren't half-breeds. These aren't partial Jews. These are Jewish people that happen to immigrate far enough north, Poland, Germany, and whatnot, that became their permanent home. And now she's maligning them, and she's suggesting that there's this worldwide conspiracy of coordinated revolutions by these evil Jews, and everywhere they go, they bring their filth. That's her language. If that doesn't sound like something Adolf Hitler would have said in the 1920s and 30s, I don't know what does. She's parroting the same nonsense that led us to the Holocaust and World War II. And Tucker Carlson, when he called for DNA testing of Jews, he did this just what, a week or two ago?
Yeah, it's Huckabee.
He did it for the same reason. He's bought this lie that they're not really Jews, that they're half-breeds, they're fake, and that they've infiltrated the various different sectors of culture in many different countries with a common cause of world dominance. It all goes back to the protocols of the elders of Zion, a discredited fake document that was full of lies, and the Talmudic Jew, which is the same thing. That's what she's referencing. She's claiming that those documents are historically accurate when they were written for no other reason than to malign the people of God. And why do you malign the people of God? Because you hate their God. When you malign Jews, you're maligning the God of the Jews. And when you malign the God of the Jews, you're maligning Jesus Christ, the apostles, and all the prophets. This is not a godly thing to do, and Christians should draw the line. We have no common cause with these people. In fact, in some of the commentary that I was engaged in this week, Bob, I was asked over and over again, why are you being so hard on Candace? And I said, number one, because she's a terrible anti-Semite and she hates Jews. Number two, she traffics in silly myths, to use the very language of the Apostle Paul when he wrote his epistles to Timothy and Titus. He says, beware of those who traffic in silly myths. That is exactly Candace Owens. And he ultimately says, you should not associate with such people. Again, that's a quote from the Apostle Paul. If you're a Christian and if you think you have anything in common with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson or anyone else that maligns God's people this way, I would suggest you tap the brakes a little bit, because you are told in your heart, you know it's wrong. I mean, but in the Bible, it tells you not to do it. And she is telling lies about God's people because she does not respect God. If you're going to malign the people, you're maligning the God they worship.
The God's people part of that is one of the bigger points of contention that Tucker had with Mike Huckabee when they did their very, very widely publicized interview about a week and a half ago. And he tried to get Mike Huckabee to admit or to convince him that, the people, that God referenced to Abram are not the people today. And it's the same exact thing you're talking about what really is a Jew and what is not. And then what Candace said at the end of that part of the last clip that we just played, I'll let the clip finish in a second here, where she talked about gypsies. They became whatever they had to become in a given place. There was no true faith or ethnicity to them. They just became whatever, and it just reminded me, people talk about the 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust by Hitler. It wasn't just 6 million, it was closer to 10 million because they were killing, quote, Jews and gypsies, among other undesirables. So she is trafficking in the exact same language that we heard from Hitler in justifying the final solution, and why all of these people had to go.
Absolutely.
So I find it staggering that we're listening to that in 2026, that the same kind of thing we heard in the early 1940s is playing out here. But it is, and here's the rest of this clip.
This is our inheritance. Our entire history and our present is a gangster's paradise in America. Hollywood exists to glamorize the filthiest people, that work in the most debased industries. It's not entertainment. It's always been disgusting. It's always been about filth, prostitution, importing people from Vienna and trying to collapse America. Successful all across Europe. They did. Christian empires got divided. And here we are today, right? This is what we're facing in America. You have to understand.
All right. I don't even know. I can't imagine anyone else, Dr. Piper, getting away with calling any one group of people the types of things that she's talking about. If anybody were to say that about Candace Owens and Candace Owens' quote unquote people, meaning African Americans, oh my gosh, we would all be righteously, indignant and furious and condemning everybody who would say such a thing. Yet she says this so casually, as if it were factually proven that these people are filthy and all of the other stuff that we just
filthy and disgusting. The filthiest and most disgusting people. That's what she said. And absolutely, I'm just going to repeat what you said, but I was thinking the same thing, so I want to say it and just double down on what you just pointed out. If you or I, as Caucasians, used that language in describing anybody else, whether it be Hispanics, whether it be blacks, whether it be fill in the blank, Muslims, Arabs, fill in the blank. If we said those filthy and disgusting Mexicans, those filthy and disgusting blacks, if we said that, we would rightly be condemned and shut down. We would rightly be condemned and shut down because it's a disgusting thing for us to say, to put those labels on another group of people.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what you did.
Think about it if this was just reversed, the two of them. What if the Jew had said this about blacks?
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, specifically a Jew talking. What if Michael Barber, people would just, again, be outraged and, oh my gosh.
They lose their mind.
Yeah, and cities would probably burn. Protests and would lead to violence and things like that. But because she said this, it's I don't know, it's remarkable. And what's even more remarkable, Dr. Piper, is her following.
Oh,
Her following among Christians who should understand the things you just talked about, and both books of the Bible, or all of the books of the Bible, but both the Old and New Testament, everything that you talk about, the God and God's people, God's chosen people. And if you malign them, you're maligning God, which is Jesus Christ. Christians are literally turning away from Jesus Christ to demonize Jesus Christ, who was one of those filthy, disgusting Jews. The idea that the number of Christians in the millions have started to follow her. She already had a really popular podcast when she was a conservative darling and one of us, and really professing the things that we believe in, like Charlie Kirk in Turning Point USA's, what I still cling to, which is faith, family, and freedom. She was a part of that. And she had a big following then, but it's when she turned and became an anti-Semite, and she turned on Erica Kirk and is continuing to malign her and suggest that she had something to do with her own husband's murder, or that Turning Point as an organization did. All of this stuff has elevated her profile to the point where she's making 6 figures a month on monetization from her podcast. She has an audience that just dwarfs almost anybody else in this industry. And that's what's terrifying to me, is that her audience is Christians saying, go Candace, go.
And I'm going to use this as a segue to read a quote out of my column from the Washington Times this weekend, if I might. So we've talked about Candace Owens' anti-Semitic position and her comments. And just a summary of what you and I just discussed. Candace Owens has said the following, or made the following claims. A secret cabal of Hollywood Jews was involved in the death of Michael Jackson. That the Anti-Defamation League was started to protect Jewish pedophiles. That Joseph Stalin was a secret Jew with 3 Jewish wives. That the Star of David is a symbol for a child-sacrificing pagan god. And that Jews engage in human sacrifice every Passover by killing Christian children and using their blood in their ceremonial matzah. She's also said that Jews orchestrated the Bolshevik Revolution as a genocide targeting Christians to destroy Christian nations, and that Zionists, one of her favorite words, now want to assassinate her just like they did JFK. These are all facts, okay? Everybody can check these out. This list that I just gave is factual. She says these things, okay? Now she's jumped into going after Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk. So despite all of this, or in addition to all of this anti-Semitism, which has been around for a long time with her, she's now made Erica Kirk a target. And despite zero evidence, and she's not provided any evidence, people, if you think she's got the receipts, okay, she keeps saying she has the receipts on Erica Kirk, she doesn't provide any. But she persists in suggesting that Erica Kirk and other TPUSA insiders were complicit in the broader plot and the subsequent cover-up and/or assassination of Charlie. She continues to imply that Erica Kirk has ulterior motives in accepting the CEO position of TPUSA and claims that Erica's leadership is suspicious and self-motivated and conspiratorial. And then finally, Owens argues now that Erica's tone and style and demeanor, her dress, she smiles, she doesn't smile, I like what she wears, I don't like what she wears. This is all off. The vibes aren't good. Candace Owens, that's what she's saying. So she's making all these claims against Erica Kirk. Now, the point of my article in the Washington Times, and this is where I'm segueing off of what you just said, if you're a Christian, why are you listening to this? I'm sorry. You need to distance yourself from this. And there's a woman out there that I think everybody should be following. She's excellent. She's a great Christian apologist. Her name is Elisa Childers. If you don't follow her, people, go do so. Subscribe to her podcast. She's excellent. One of the books that she's recently authored is titled Another Gospel, where she's challenging the deconstruction of Christianity, the Gnosticism of our current culture, the therapeutic deism of our current culture that's replacing Orthodox biblical faith. So read her books and listen to her podcast. But she recently posted this on X. I don't have time to read all of it, but I'm going to read part of what she said on X to her followers. She says this: Candace Owens's deranged crusade shows no sign of stopping. And we all need to spend some time doing something edifying instead of watching this evil garbage. It is a vicious and slanderous demonic attack. And if you're a Christian caught up in this, I tell you with love as a sister in Christ, you need to repent. Close quote, Elisa Childers. And to that I say, amen. Amen, Elisa. Go at it. Because the Apostle Paul said the same thing. And I hinted at this earlier, Bob, when we were talking 5-10 minutes ago. But the Apostle Paul specifically says in his letters to Timothy and Titus during the first century, to the first century church, he said this: in the last days, there will be people, even within the church, even within some conservative circles, if you will, who are controlled by Paul's language, deceitful spirits. I want you to listen to Paul's language. Deceitful spirits. And then he goes on to say they will traffic in irreverent and silly myths. Paul's language. And then he says that they are deceivers who will be puffed up and conceited, and they will crave controversy, and they will thrive on dissension, slander, evil suspicions, and constant friction. And then he summarizes this all, if you haven't got the point yet, by saying, have nothing to do with these persons who stir up division, knowing that such a person is warped and sinful and is self-condemned. Close quote, the Apostle Paul. So folks, if you don't see that the language that Paul just used is describing these people who are trafficking in this nonsense, this sinful conspiracy theory crap, you got to take your blinders off. And like Elisa Childers said, it's time for those of us who have played into this, and we paid attention to this, it's time for us to stop and pay attention to something edifying and repent for giving these people any of our time and any of our attention. It's wrong. It's sinful. And we don't want to participate in it.
That's a great summary, and I'm glad you quoted from your article, which is always a good idea. And people should read it on the Washington Times. And subscribe to the Washington Times website. It's one of those paywalls that it's worth going past and reading Dr. Piper stuff every week. Couple of quick responses, and then we'll move on to the Iran story. She's not wrong about Erica Kirk being a little bit off. She is. She's a little bit different, a little bit strange, a little bit her emotions going from here to there. Some of the videos of her, wearing things that one might not think are becoming of a newly, a victimized widow, and so on and so forth. There's something wrong. But you know what, Dr. Piper?
So
her husband was murdered on essentially live television. I cannot begin to put myself in the head, in the heart, in the soul of a victim like that, and then challenge her for the manner in which she grieves. Some people might have just buried themselves under the covers for a month or longer, unable to deal with the reality of the world that just got, blown up for her, even though she's got 2 children. How can I dare judge her? And some people might say, I can't be alone and think about it. I'm going to have to be around other people. I'm going to go and I'm going to be in front of I'm going to do what Charlie. How can anyone possibly judge her and say what is off and what isn't? I think there's something a little bit off, but she has a right to be off. She has a right to be trying to figure out. She's never had the spotlight of fame on her like this, the way her husband had. She was always his supporter and maybe his backbone behind the operation of Turning Point USA. And suddenly she's been thrust from behind the scenes to the front, to the stage where somebody has to carry on his work and his mission. And she's made it her mission to do that. The fact that she's not properly grieving for Candace Owens, approval, to her satisfaction is just one of the most grotesque things that I've ever heard. Again, Christian attacking Christian. A Christian attacking the wife of a man who spent his life from the age of around 14 until he founded Turning Point, I think at 17, and then passed away at 31, whose mission was to bring people to Christ. That was his number one mission. It wasn't to get people to vote conservative. It became a big part of it, but his number one mission was to preach and to proselytize and to bring people to Christ and bring people to God. And that's what she does. How can Candace Owens sit there and proclaim herself to be such a wonderful, Christ is King Christian and do this to another one of what should be her sisters in Christ? That's all.
I know we want to move on, but I'm going to repeat, and then I'm going to quote Jesus here. And then I want to comment on Erica Kirk's demeanor. Again, the Apostle Paul. I want people to listen. I want you to hear this. Pay no attention to those who are trafficking in irreverent and silly myths, who are puffed up and conceited, who crave controversy, who thrive on dissension, slander, evil suspicions, and constant friction. This is still Paul. Have nothing to do with people like this, knowing that such a person is warped and sinful and is self-condemned. This is the Bible. We should have nothing you shouldn't be doing it. Lord help you if you're doing it yourself. But even if you're associating with those who do, my mama told me that you're known by the company you keep. You shouldn't be keeping company with these people, and that's what the Apostle Paul just told you. Jesus says, beware of false prophets who come in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. And Candace Owens, I'm telling you folks, Candace Owens is no lowly sheep. She is not. She is not an innocent lamb who's just asking questions. She's a rabid wolf, and she's seeking nothing less to divide, and devour and destroy the flock. And we just need to stop listening to her, because we listen to her to our own demise. Now, on Erica Kirk.
Real quick, by the way, 2 words that were missing from what you just said when you said her mission is to divide and devour the flock. The 2 words after that we all need to remember are for profit.
Yes.
For profit. Which makes it 10 times worse. For clicks, yes. For monetization and more viewers, 6-7 million people watching her every show, which is extraordinary. I mean, I will give her that. She has found a way to do it. She has cracked the code to make millions and millions of dollars off of trafficking and the things that you just said. But the Apostle Paul, just to echo what you said, basically said in today's terms, unfollow her. That's
absolutely. You're spot on, Bob. Spot on. Now, on Erica, I think in crisis, we all kind of lean away from our weaknesses and into our strengths. For example, if I had a crisis in my family member dies, okay? I'm at the funeral. I might get criticized behind my back for being too stoic and strong and a stiff upper lip. The guy didn't even cry. He was acting like he was in charge of the whole thing, and that he had no, does the guy not have a heart? Okay, I would get criticized for those things. You know why? Because those are my strengths. My strength is I'm stoic. My strength is I'm determined. My strength is I'm not going to let conflict dissuade me. My strength is I plow through things even though others see them as crises. So in the middle of a personal crisis, I'm going to lean into my strengths instinctively. I probably won't be able to help it. And a lot of people who are more soft in heart and empathetic are going to see me as some sort of stone, hard, callous, uncaring human being, and they're going to criticize me for it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Now, Erica Kirk, I don't know the woman, but what I do know of her, she was a beauty queen. She's been trained as a beauty queen. She knows how to present herself. So in the midst of crisis, what's she going to lean into? She's going to lean into her training and into her strengths. And if we don't like it, so what? This is what the woman's been trained to do. If you think she's too prim and too glitzed up and she's wearing too much jewelry, or you don't like her clothes, maybe she's leaning into the training she's received since she was a young teenager and was participating in beauty pageants. She knows how to handle herself on stage, and I cut her some slack if that's what she's leaning into as she grieves. Is it the way I would grieve? Absolutely not, because those aren't my strengths. I haven't been trained to do that. She has. And Candace Owens and the rest of us just need to shut up and leave the woman alone. Matt Walsh has an excellent podcast 2 or 3 days ago where he covers this. And I think he does an excellent job of saying kind of what I just said, and I butchered it. Walsh does a really good job of summarizing. Leave her alone. Let her grieve in her own style. Stop it. Stop it.
It was a great podcast, and I was going to bring it up if you didn't anyway, because as long as we were going to talk about what Candace is doing to Erica Kirk. Matt Walsh broke down all of Candace's quote-unquote receipts that Dr. Piper talked about and just absolutely decimates the entire argument. It's a brilliant work. It's an inspired work, and it's something that has to be done. I hope more people. And also has a very, very big podcast and a big booming voice. Some will say, oh, this is part of the bitter feud between Ben and Candace, because Matt is with the Daily Wire as well. But no, Matt is his own man, and he is watching. And Matt Walsh, by the way, we'll talk about this now because I've got about 15 minutes left in our episode, Dr. Piper, to talk about Iran. Matt Walsh is not afraid to buck the trend. When it comes to deciding whether or not Donald Trump should have pulled the trigger on Iran right now, and whether or not this is the right thing to do. And he correctly points out that there is a lane in this. So in other words, my point is he's not just marching to the same beat of the same drummer. He is not somebody who's going to go along with something he doesn't believe in. So when he defends Erica Kirk, it's not because he's just supporting, Daily Wire and their war against Erica Kirk and the battle that's gone on there. No, he's going to say what he believes is right himself. It's a great listen. People should check it out. Matt Walsh talking about Candace Owens' slander against Erica Kirk. So Dr. Piper, what I want to spend the last 15 minutes on here is what Matt Walsh talked about here. He said there's a lane for people who are conservative, Trump supporters, America First, MAGA even, to say, I don't know about this. This might not be the right time for that. Are you sure this was self-defensive? Are you sure this was preemptive for the purposes of stopping an Iranian strike that we would have had to absorb, that would have cost many more lives and then gone into it anyway? Are you sure about that? It's a very fair question. It has been extraordinary, the success of the strikes that are now in day 4. It's been remarkable that they have taken out not just the senior leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, but also I think 40 of his top lieutenants, for crying out loud, when they were gathering together in what we might call, the Conference of Cardinals to select the next pope. They got all the geniuses together in one room to select the next Ayatollah, and so we bombed that room. And I'm sorry to laugh about it, but it's pretty extraordinary. It has been an extraordinary success thus far, but the question is bouncing around even the conservative side of things. Was it the right thing to do? Is it justifiable? And I think we have to be careful how we address this, because on the other side of the aisle, they have already made up their minds because of PBS. It is reflexive for them to automatically declare it to be unjust, unconstitutional, and illegal for him to do so. And they're openly rooting for his, meaning President Trump's, failure, which means they're rooting for the failure of the troops and more death of American troops. So, Dr. Piper, that's my setup for you. You can take it away.
Well, I tend to be an isolationist in temperament in my historical knowledge, in my understanding of, you know, the DNA of our constitutional republic. But I also recognize the reality that we live in today. So let's just assume that, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but so just for the sake of theater here, let's assume you and I disagree as conservatives, as conservative Christians, on whether or not we should be engaging in this way with Iran. I think what's totally acceptable is for one of us to say, yeah, they've been saying death to America since 1979. They've been pursuing nuclear weapons and everybody knows it. They've been funding by the billions proxy terrorist organizations across the world and even here in the United States. They've killed Americans since 1979 in Lebanon, in Beirut, in Israel, in the war field. So at what point in time are we going to say enough's enough? These people mean it. They do mean death to America when they've been saying it, and they're getting stronger militarily. We're stupid if we don't stop them now. Because sooner or later, we're going to have to stop them. And it's better to stop them now before they have nukes than to try to do so later on. Okay? That's one position. And I don't see anything unbiblical, illogical, or unconservative about what I just said. Now, the other person could say, wait a second. I think it's dangerous. We could draw the European Union, we could draw NATO into the conflict. They could do so. We could destroy the trafficking of energy and oil around the world by shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. We could draw China into it because they get whatever percentage of their oil they get from Iran, and they're not going to like this. So do you want to go to war with China? I don't think Russia is a risk right now because they're preoccupied with Ukraine, but okay. If you took that argument, I have no right to tell you that it's a less than conservative argument, a less than biblical argument, and that it's some sort of crackpot-driven conspiracy. Because what you didn't say, or what I didn't say in that particular position, was anything about the Jews, okay? You're just being logical. You're thinking strategically. So I do think within the conservative side of politics, we can have this discussion and have this debate. In fact, that's the beauty of conservatism. We should be trying to pursue the most pragmatic and true options that are available to us without any distractions and biases. Forget the lies, pursue the truth. So I don't know, because I don't know all the facts. My gut tells me that if somebody's been telling me for 45, 46 years that they want to kill me, okay, and that's not hyperbole, they've been saying it for nearly half a century that they want to kill me and everybody that lives around me. They want to wipe us off the face of the earth. If that person or that country or that government or that group is getting really, really, really close to having the ability to carry out their threats, best that we do something about it rather than sit around and talk about it. So do I support what Donald Trump is doing right now? Logically, yes. Am I nervous? Sure, I'm nervous. Could he be wrong? Could there have been a better way? Did he exhaust all diplomatic efforts? I don't know. I wasn't in the room. So at some point in time, I voted for the man. And here's people say, well, he broke his promise. He said it wasn't going to get us in any more wars. Garbage. How many times did he tell us in debates? One of his quotes was, and I hope I can say this on your podcast, I think I can, I'm quoting Donald Trump. He was asked, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris say that what their threat to Iran is just don't. What would your response be, Donald Trump? And his answer was, I'd bomb the hell out of them.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so don't tell me you're surprised on what Donald Trump is doing. Don't tell me, well, he promised that he wouldn't do this and he's breaking his promise. He told you repeatedly what he would do. And if we've learned anything about Donald Trump, he doesn't make veiled threats. So do I support him? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I second almost everything you just said. And the part about I don't have all the facts, so I can't say, as definitively maybe as I would like to, because I don't have all the facts, which comes down to then a matter of, do you trust the people that do? And quite frankly, I don't think it's even a close call. Yes, I do. I trust Marco Rubio. I
Yeah.
trust Pete Hegseth. I trust John Ratcliffe, our CIA director. I trust Donald Trump, and I trust them to know when they say that Iran is about to make a move. Iran is about to make a move, and we can just sit here, and then you know what would happen. All of the critics who are attacking Donald Trump, again, reflexively. It's as assured as if you sat up on a doctor's table and they tapped your knee and your leg popped up. If Donald Trump says boo, reflexively, they scream about it and say it was the wrong thing to say. So as rabid and angry as they are at Trump for making this first strike, what would they have said if Iran had struck and Americans were killed? And now we're striking back at them. And oh my gosh, how come Hegseth and Ratcliffe and Rubio and all of the intelligence agencies and State Departments and everyone else didn't know about this? Incompetence galore. So I'm going to absolutely take the side of the people that are telling me this was going to happen and this is why we need to do this, over the side that didn't tell us and told us the exact opposite, in fact, that Joe Biden was near death, that Joe Biden was a walking, talking corpse being propped up by B-12 shots and a number of other things, that had no idea what was going on around him and did not sign executive orders or pardons and had that done. I'm sorry. I'm going to take, if I have to decide who do I trust more to have the facts, it's going to be them. And one other thing, I'll say this, Dr. Piper, and you can respond to it as part of our close. What the left is saying, both on television and on Capitol Hill, is, and Tucker Carlson, go back, let's bring it full circle. And what Tucker Carlson is saying is that Donald Trump didn't declare this war or start this action, because it's not a war, by the way, until it's a declared war. Barack Obama bombed Libya for 7 months, and it was never called the U.S.-Libya War. 7 months. Right, and no one got it. So it's not a war, but Donald Trump didn't take this military action against Iran because Bibi Netanyahu told him to. That's what Tucker Carlson, congressional Democrats, and media Democrats all want you to believe, is that Israel is again getting America to fight its battles for them because Israel hates Iran. Gee, I wonder why. Look what Iran does to Israel on a regular basis. But then Bibi Netanyahu, tells Donald Trump what to do. And my response to that, Dr. Piper, is, have you been alive for the last 10 years? Is it not the most clear thing in the world since 2015 when Donald Trump first came down that escalator that nobody tells Donald Trump what to do? It takes orders from no one. The idea that Bibi would say, yeah, I need you to do this, Donald. Okay, yes, sir. Are you kidding me? They call him a narcissist. They call him an autocrat. They call him an authoritarian. He's the biggest, baddest bully, and he does whatever he wants, except when it comes to Israel, Israel can tell him what to do. Give me a break.
It doesn't pass the smell test. It's not logical. I mean, our eyes, like you said, have you been alive? What have you been smoking? I mean, my life.
We're going to go ahead and pause it right here. The conversation with Dr. Everett Piper. It was near its end there anyway. That was from last night. We recorded that segment. It was very, very enlightening, particularly everything that he talked about with respect to Christianity and Judaism and so forth. But the Iran war, obviously, or the Iran war effort, whatever it is that we're calling this right now, is, of course, the most important thing there. But I want to pause there because I want to make sure I clear the decks for our next guest after I remind you about our fantastic partner, Americans for Prosperity. Don't forget this, my friends. Ohio has everything that it takes to lead the nation, but we need the right policies to get us there. And the Buckeye Blueprint lays out those policies. It's a phenomenal look at what Ohio can be. It focuses on building a better, bolder Buckeye state, moving Ohio from the middle of the Midwest to #1 in the country for economic freedom and educational opportunity and energy abundance, and a government that works for the people. So if you believe Ohio can do better, then we ask you to join us and take action at BuckeyeBlueprint.com, BuckeyeBlueprint.com, which is, again, the brainchild of the great folks at Americans for Prosperity. And they are phenomenal. And I want to thank them for being partners foundational partners, one of the first huge sponsors we have on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. So tremendous organization there. Make sure you support them. Go to afpohio.org and go to buckeyeblueprint.com. All right, so I cut my conversation there just barely, a little bit short, a couple of minutes off the end so that I can make room for our next guest, who happens to be a pretty important guy. He's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and a member of the Oversight Committee, and he had his hands full yesterday with a number of issues. He joins us now on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. He is, of course, Chairman and Congressman Jim Jordan. And hold on a second, we got to remove that from the screen so we can see you directly. There we go. Mr. Chairman. Good, sir. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
So I watched with great interest and almost entertainment you making Tim Walz dance yesterday, which was extraordinarily important. I want to talk about that entire hearing, and I want to talk about the fraud which you exposed, and asking him why it is that he lied about restarting payments with the food aid program, and then we'll talk about what the left is trying to do to DHS and to Secretary Noem yesterday with respect to ICE. Well, let's start out with yesterday, and then we'll work to what's coming today, which is the Sanctuary City Shutdown Act. But tell me about what you were trying to show people in that exchange you had with Governor Walz.
Well, he wouldn't say it, but we know why he lied. He lied for politics. He lied for political reasons, because the Somali voting bloc is a huge voting bloc for Democrat officials in the state of Minnesota, and they were threatening a racial discrimination lawsuit. They couldn't have that. So they had shut down the funding for this program. Now, back up a second. This program went from $2 million in year one to $200 million 2.5 years later. They were supposed to be feeding kids, no meals, no kids, just stuffing money in their pockets. It's just blatant fraud. And they stop it because everyone's saying, wait a minute, something's not right here. Whistleblowers, auditors, everyone. And then they restart it because they're afraid of the politics. They're afraid of the race card being played against them. And then Tim Walz lied about it. He said, the court made us do it, which was not true. And the court did something I've never seen. They issued a statement from the court itself. They didn't go through some unnamed source, anonymous source, and leak it to the New York Times. They released a statement saying Tim Walz's statement is false. We did not order them to restart this program, restart money flowing to this program. So we know why he wouldn't say it, but we know why he did it. It was all politics, and not just in this program, but in several others.
100%. Do we have an idea yet, because different numbers have been floated around, how many billions of dollars are we thinking about went to programs like this fraudulently, as well as many of the others that that have been exposed in the Twin Cities?
Yeah, we don't know for sure. We've heard different numbers. We've heard as high as potentially $9 billion, but we don't know for sure. And I think it's going to take a while to dig into, because I think a lot of this probably happened in Medicaid. There was one of the 4 programs that we, Feeding Our Future, and this other program, behavioral for people with autism and different things. Yep. Some of that's the one I think you got to dig into more and find out how broad it went in the Medicaid program, federal Medicaid dollars coming to the state. So, but the good news is we at the Justice Department, we have a Deputy Attorney General now, Colin McDonald, who is focused on this issue in particular, fraud, not only in Minnesota, but around the country. I think that's a darn good effort. And I do think eventually we'll get to the bottom of it.
There's a headline. I want to stay on the fraud for just a moment here, Congressman Jordan. Ohio child care providers warn new anti-fraud bill could destabilize the industry. Now, this is a state bill, not something that you're dealing with at the federal level, but you're ours. You're Ohio. What about the fraud in our state? They're literally proposing a bill, I think it's 647, House Bill 647, that would absolutely crack down on the fraud, on childcare centers being, it's being perpetrated on the taxpayers here in the state of Ohio. And they're already trying to say, yeah, but if you crack down on the fraud, you're going to take money away from the legitimate childcare organizations. I mean, I don't even know how deep the graft really is, but that's extraordinary in our state.
I would argue just the opposite. If you crack down on the fraud, you're protecting taxpayer money, and you're making sure the dollars go to people who really deserve it. We had a hearing in one of our subcommittees of judiciary where we had a lady who ran an autism center, and she was doing things the right way, and she was helping people. She actually had one of her children had autism, and she talked about how it hurt her ability to do the program in the right way to help people who truly need help. So I would argue just the opposite of whatever that headline was whatever argument was being made in that headline.
So this hearing yesterday, Congressman and Chairman Jordan, it's like there were two hearings going on at the same time.
Yeah.
You guys were investigating the fraud, and all your Democrat colleagues wanted to do was harangue the administration and DHS for the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the ICE, operations that were conducted there, and how heavy-handed and so on and so forth. It was really, quite frankly, disgusting to listen to. But can you speak to that second part now? What is, we're still unfunded. DHS is still unfunded because they want to essentially abolish ICE through that list of reforms. What's going to happen?
Yeah, it was funny because it was happening in both hearings. They where you had Walls there, the Democrats were talking about the tragic situation that happened with Mr. Good and Mr. Preddy in Minneapolis, and still attacking ICE. And then the same thing, we had a hearing going on then at the same time where we had Secretary Noem, and you were hearing the same thing from Democrats in the Judiciary Committee. Right. We need to get it funded, particularly now when this is Homeland Security, particularly now when we got this conflict with the attack that are happening in Iran. You want to get this thing funded, but it's the same old argument. And the Democrats have their list of demands they want, which are, I think, for the most part, pretty ridiculous. The real problem is the sanctuary jurisdiction, because it would be so much better if you didn't have to send so many agents out onto the street to arrest people to apprehend people who have been charged with the crime, who were in the country illegally, who had a detainer sent to the jail while they were in jail. And because they're a sanctuary jurisdiction, they said, no, we're going to release them to the streets, go get them there. That helps create this environment that led to the tragedies we saw in Minneapolis. So that to me is the real dumb policy that's in place for almost a third of the country. And so today, starting in just a few minutes, we will start the committee, and we're going to pass that legislation and mark that bill up and pass it out of our committee and move to get this into law, where you stop this sanctuary jurisdiction policy all over the country.
I read, I did not see or hear this part from yesterday's testimony, but the number 18,000, was that 18,000 ICE detainer requests in 2025 were denied by sanctuary jurisdictions? Is that right?
Yeah, 17,864 times a detainer was filed. Someone is in the country illegally. We have a final order of removal. They're also charged with some other crime. That's why they're in a jail or a detention center. You file the detainer with them, and it's not honored. 200,000 detainers were filed. Think about that number. And remember, most of 2/3 of the country is not a sanctuary jurisdiction. Only about a third of the country, 18 cities, 11 states, 3 counties in the District of Columbia, are sanctuary jurisdiction, but it represents about a third of the population. So in a third of the population, you had 17,000 times where a bad guy is released to the streets, and it forces ICE to go out on the streets and get him, just like we witnessed in Minnesota. And it creates an environment where, unfortunately, you have bad things happen. So that is the problem. If we can fix that, I think we go a long way into stopping some of the stuff we've seen on this. And we also stop the other part of this. ICE agents have been harassed. They've been spit on. They've been sworn at. They've been screamed at. They've been interfered with. They've been doxxed. They've been tracked. Their families have been threatened. All that has happened to these ICE agents as well. It'd be so much better if they could just go to the jail and get the bad guy there versus being out on the street and have all that stuff happen.
Yeah, and you know what? That's exactly why I'm having this event tomorrow night. You're probably not going to be in district, but I'm in Brook Park tomorrow night. We're having an ICE appreciation event. We're actually going to bring, we're going to show that not everybody hates our law enforcement officers. Not everybody hates laws, and we're going to actually support ICE because nobody's doing that. If anything, people are kind of being quiet. They're not protesting. They're just being quiet. The supporters don't want to draw any condemnation, so they're quiet. We're going to be loud and proud about it. Back to the markup today of what's it called? Sanctuary City Shutdown Act. Is that the one? Yeah. What's in this with respect to teeth? Okay, if sanctuary cities, if this passes, and of course we know the obstacles, it's a very narrow margin you have in the House, and we don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. But if this is going to become law, what are the teeth look like?
It states what frankly the law of the land. Federal law preempts state law. You can't have state law interfering with the enforcement of federal law. So it's like federal preemption. So that's one aspect of the bill. Second, it says that in jurisdictions where there are where you're a sanctuary jurisdiction, you're not eligible for federal funds. We do have a caveat in there where we say a little carve out where we say, okay, if you're a state like California, sanctuary state, and you're a county that's a conservative county and a conservative leadership and a conservative sheriff, and you want to work with ICE, then you're allowed to still apply for and receive federal grant dollars. And if the state comes after you, another element of the bill is if the state comes after you, the federal government will step in your place and defend that position that you've taken if your state comes after you, and yet you are, as a local jurisdiction, want to work with the federal government in enforcing federal law. So we have those basic elements in the bill that, again, we think this is just common sense. We had Secretary Noem, and I asked her, I said, is this one of the dumbest policies you have ever seen? And she, of course, she said, yes, it makes no sense. Oh, and it was even worse, Bob. Under the previous administration, Secretary Mayorkas, then Homeland Secretary, actually made it worse. He had this protected areas memorandum that he issued to ICE and to the ICE's agents out there. And he said, in that situation where detainer's filed, they release them to the streets instead of honoring the detainer and turning them over to federal law enforcement. Then he even said, you can't go pick this individual up if he's at or near a school, at or near a place of worship, at a child center, a child care facility. Now think about it. What if he was charged with the crime of hurting kids, and yet you can't go pick him up near a school? This is just craziness. And the Democrats, in their list of demands, they want to go back to that same memorandum standard, this protected areas standard.
Yeah, and one of the other protected areas, and I think it was Raskin who asked Kristi Noem about this too, about maybe it wasn't Raskin, but it was about ICE agents being in the proximity of elections, of voting booths. And saying, you're not going to send them there. And her response, I thought, was a very good one. Why? Do you have illegal aliens planning to come and vote? Why are you concerned about this? But I am very concerned about that. Why would they specify that protected area, election centers or election polling precincts? Why on earth would they be afraid of ICE being there if there weren't going to be illegal aliens descending upon them?
Well, because they're the same party that doesn't want you to prove citizenship to vote. I mean, they're the same party that says you shouldn't have photo ID to vote. I mean, this is today's crazy left, which unfortunately has control of the other party. It makes no sense. Well, we've talked time and time again, just every policy position they take is just crazy. Not
to be cynical here, but our party isn't for the SAVE Act either. Look at why won't Majority Leader Thune call this for a vote? There have been calls on your side to get Mike Johnson to go to war with Thune because he will not bring this up and he will not whip votes and rally and try to get whatever is needed to get this thing through. Again, very simplistic things. Prove you're a citizen to register, and then prove you are who you say you are when you actually vote. That's not hard. That's not disenfranchisement. Yet our own party in the other chamber won't do that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't called it up for a vote. I assume all the Republicans are going to vote for this. We'll see if a couple Democrats may, but the idea.
Fetterman will. We know that.
Yeah, but it's like, why not just have the vote? And frankly, not just have the vote, have the robust debate. I mean, President Reagan always used to talk. You got to paint with big bold colors in politics. You got to let the country see what's unfolding, what is happening. Have the vote, have the debate, make the arguments, make the Democrats look ridiculous, and then show the country, and then use that as an issue, a key issue, of course, in the upcoming midterm election.
Congressman, I could talk about the SAVE Act with you all day, but I got 7 minutes left, and I want to use them. I want to use them on Iran because yesterday in that Senate, we saw a vote on the War Powers Act resolution. The Democrats wanted to shut down the entire Iranian effort and the strikes and the planned, evolution of this whole thing. Tell me just in your own words, why this was the right time to do this for President Trump to make the decision. And do you think Israel was in any way, shape, or form coercing or pushing President Trump in that direction?
No, Israel's a partner. They're our best friend. I mean, we're on the same page here. This was a good thing for the United States. This was a good thing for Israel. This is a good thing for the world. Frankly, it's a good thing for the Iranian people. If in the end it means a better future for them as well. But you cannot let this regime, it's been said many times, but everyone knows this. I think everyone's at the left. You can't let this regime, 47 years, almost 50 years of terrorism, doing so much, killing Americans, killing Israelis, killing others, killing their own people. You can't let them get nuclear capability. And the president said this when he ran for the job. And he did a big thing last year with Midnight Hammer, Operation Midnight Hammer, that set him back big time, but they were trying to redo it. They're trying to get going again. They're trying to make it happen again. And part of making it happen was all these missiles and missile sites and missile launchers and things they were doing to protect them and give them the sort of the buffer they needed to develop a nuclear weapon. No, this is the largest state sponsor of terrorism. They're the ones funding the Hezbollah and the Houthis and all this stuff, and they're creating all the chaos. And now you see how radical they are, because once this happened, it wasn't just a response against American interest in the Gulf state, in the Mideast or Israel. It was also the other Gulf states. I mean, I didn't expect that. I don't think many people did, but that shows you how radical and crazy, to use how crazy this regime is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Secretary Rubio said it best. He said Iran is run by lunatics, religious lunatics, fanatics, and that's what they've been doing since 1979. President Trump said, Vice President Vance said, Secretary Rubio, and I think Secretary Hegseth have all said that they believe that Iran was going to strike first. And we're trying to play that out, because can you imagine, if you think the criticism from the left and from the press, which is repetitive, has been bad because of the preemptive strike, imagine what they would have said had Iran struck and we absorbed losses in huge ways. They would have called the entire administration and the Pentagon and the CIA, they would have called them incompetent because they allowed Iran to strike, and then we had to strike back, right? So is that your understanding, that this is exactly what was going to happen if we didn't strike first?
Yeah, and frankly, when you're dealing with people, radicals like the folks who run this country, run Iran, you have to have that mindset. Israel has to have that mindset in the neighborhood they live. If they're convinced the bad guys are getting ready to do something, you got to go first, and that is exactly where the United States, where according to what we've been told by our administration, that's exactly where we were. So God bless them for doing it. And you're right. If it's the alternative, can you imagine what the left says then? For goodness sake, what I know about this president is he makes decisions that are in the best interest of this country, and he does what he said he was going to do. And he told us he wasn't going to let Iran get nuclear weapons. That's one of the reasons we all voted for him, because we don't want that regime to have nuclear capability. It is that fundamental to me. And this action he took is entirely consistent with Article 2 of the Constitution. He is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Services. He gets to make these calls when there's that kind of threat on our country. And frankly, it's consistent with how he did this with the War Powers Resolution. He notified the key leaders in the Congress. We're now in this 60-day window when things unfold, and there's certain things that have to happen at the end of that 60 days. So I think he's, like I said, he followed the Constitution, he followed the War Powers Act, he made a decision that was in the best interest of the country, and he did what he said he was going to do because he knew what they were trying to, what Iran was trying to achieve.
The critics are fearful that this is going to be another forever war in Afghanistan or in Iraq. Secretary Hegseth has said, no, there are very clear objectives we have, and when these things are all checked off and achieved, we're done. Now, he said, but we're not going to tell you what they are. If we tell the press, we're telling the enemy. So I get that. But have they told you? And do they need to tell you? Do they need to tell Congress these are the specific objectives, and when they're done, we're done?
I think they've told us the objective. Now, the granular level, no, but they've told the country the objectives. They've told all of us the objective is to stop Iran from getting nuclear capability. And in order to do that, you have to take out the missiles and the launch sites so that they don't have this protection so that they can develop the weapon. And the Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth have been clear on that. I like what Secretary Hegseth said yesterday. He said, we're going full throttle. The throttle is full tilt. We are going to go. They can't outlast us. We're going to get this done and achieve the objective. So, look, let's hope it happens quickly. I think we all do, but I agree with the objective.
Two more quickies. Does the idea of boots on the ground change any of your opinion about the War Powers Act? Should the president have to come to you and Congress to get an actual declaration if we're going to put American troops on the ground in Iraq?
I mean, I think you have to view it all in. I mean, it's just not that one issue. It's in the totality of everything else and the time frame and how far into the 60 days are we now past the 60. I think you got to look at it all then. So I don't like to answer that. What if it's one element or another? It's like we'll have to see how this unfolds and what's happened between now and when you're asking me the question and what may happen in the next several weeks. We hope this is over quickly. They achieved the objective in as short a fashion and short a time frame as possible, but we'll just have to see.
And the last one for you. Leader Jeffries literally is predicting a failure, saying we cannot or we will not win this. You don't make that prediction hoping to be wrong. He wants to be proven right, of course. What message do you have for Hakeem Jeffries and any other Democrat that is literally rooting for the United States to fail in this military enterprise in Iran?
I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. We live in the greatest country ever. President Trump does what he said he's going to do. President Trump gets results. Our armed services, God bless these individuals who are over there conducting this mission, the people flying, the people doing it. God bless the families of the ones that the members of service members that lost their life or gave their life for our country. I just don't don't bet against the United States. I mean, we jeepers, I don't care what it is.
Have you ever heard anything like that, though? Literally, I mean, they're actively rooting against America because they would rather see America suffer a humiliating military defeat under Donald Trump than to have an extraordinary success, because then that would actually embolden and support for President Trump.
Yeah, I think it's all driven by this syndrome they have against this Trump derangement syndrome that they all have against President Trump. I think it's all driven by that, and it's unfortunate. What I know is it's the best country ever, and I want America to succeed in whatever effort, whether it's sports or whatever we're involved with. I love this country.
I got it. Congressman Jordan, Chairman Jordan, thank you so much. Best of luck with the Sanctuary Cities Shutdown Act. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, that's Jim Jordan. He's a phenomenal leader in Congress, and I don't care what anybody says. I'll die on that hill. People say, he talks all the time, but what's he going to do? Again, congressmen don't get to indict people. Congressmen don't get to, even in the charge of the judiciary, they don't get to decide who's going to face charges, who's going to be prosecuted, who's going to be sentenced, and so on and so forth. All they can do is do the work of uncovering it through the use of the hearings, subpoenas, depositions, and so forth. I didn't get a chance to ask him about the deposition of the Clintons, by the way. But that's all he can do, and then refer all of that to the DOJ. And the DOJ is going to have to make decisions from there. But Jim Jordan, I think, is doing phenomenal work, and I'll stand by that. Okay, let's see. What else do I have? You know what I wanted to do? I want to follow up on some of that, but I want to see if I can go back to the rest of yesterday's interview with Dr. Everett Piper. I had to cut it short there so that I can get Congressman Jordan on in time. So let me see if I can if I can continue this anyway for you right now.
I mean, nobody's going to tell Donald Trump to do anything, for good or for ill. I mean, we laugh about it. There are times when we probably wish he would listen a little bit more to his internal advisors and make correct course a bit. Stay off of it.
Even they get mad because they give him advice and he just does it. He goes and does his own thing anyway.
I mean,
nobody's telling. Sorry.
The proof to your point is X or Twitter. I mean, have you watched what the man does when he has a smartphone in his hand? Nobody's telling him what to do or what to say or what not to say. He's doing what he wants to do. And the proof is X. The proof is Twitter. The proof is social media. So, I mean, the idea that some foreign leader is going to be telling Donald Trump when to bomb another country is absurd. Now, is it possible that Israel's leadership and America's leadership got together and shared intelligence so that they could make a wise decision that would save a lot of people from a major crisis that was started by Iran if we waited any longer? Sure, that's possible. In fact, I hope it's possible. I hope that's what's happening. Somebody challenged me today and said, well, you just proved what Tucker's been claiming. It's Mossad. It's the intelligentsia of Israel that was fueling this war. Well, what is wrong with us taking advantage of the intelligence of Israel or any other nation for that matter as we decide what the threats are to our own country and our own people? I mean, of course we would attend to those facts if this other country's intelligence had proven to be valuable in the past. And if
that's what alliances are for. We don't ally ourselves
exactly.
with them, not work with them. and to take advantage of what they have to offer and to offer things in return. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. And when you've got, by the way, an intelligence operation
Like Israel.
God does, that where they can get their hands on the pagers of the enemy, of Hezbollah, and then wire them to blow in their pockets whenever they send a signal out to all of them and killing them individually. When you have an intelligence agency that can find a way to hack into the prayer apps that Muslims are listening to on their phones before they do their 5 times a day prayers, and then tell them, put down your guns or pick them up and turn them against the regime, and we will let you live and you will be liberated, to turn, because so many of them are forced essentially to be, on the side of the regime. So when they are able to do brilliant things like that, you better believe I want to tap into those resources. Heck yeah.
That's somebody I want to listen to. Okay.
Absolutely.
And not because they're stronger than me. I mean, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm under no illusions that Israel is stronger than America, that Bibi Netanyahu has greater strength than I do as a world leader. I mean, that's laughable. That's a joke. And Netanyahu knows that, and Israel knows that. But that doesn't mean that Donald Trump is stupid enough not to listen to them when they say, hey, we've got valid intelligence here that if we don't do X, they're going to do Y within the next 2 days. I want to listen to that, and I want to elect a president who does, because it'd be very dangerous to elect a president who doesn't.
There's a saying that I often refer to, and it just so happens to be, and I think maybe the first time I saw it or read it was on this flip calendar that I'm looking through right now. It's a quote a day, inspirational or motivational quote a day flip calendar that I've had on my desk, whether it be my desk as a teacher or as a broadcaster, for about 35 years now. And the quote, and I'm looking for it because it just came up within the last couple of weeks. And it's exactly what you were just saying right now. It's not because, they're stronger or whatever, that I would be foolish not to, follow the great advice and take advantage of the knowledge of, and so on and so forth, other people. And I'm going to find it here before we go, only because I read it to my audience because I've been doing this.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt that here simply because you've already heard that part before. We've talked about the line is when you hire people who are smarter than you are, you prove that you are smarter than they are. You hire good people and you get out of the way and you watch everything flow perfectly. So that was kind of the message. The last thing that I had to say to Dr. Piper there. So I wanted to jump in here before we're done though, because it's 8:56 and remind everybody, first of all, I thought we got a lot of really great content out of Jim Jordan there. The fact that they're holding that hearing today to mark up a bill called the Sanctuary Cities Shutdown Act. And I asked him specifically, because we can always say, 3 cheers for the language that says this is what we want done, but we never, ever find out, or at least rarely ever find out what the consequences are going to be if the law is not followed. What are the teeth? That was why, and I'm going to ask every lawmaker I talk to on this program, whether they be Ohio lawmakers, and tomorrow we're going to have Heidi Workman on about a couple of items on the agenda in Columbus, but whether it's that or Congressman Jordan or anybody else, what do the teeth look like? What are the consequences if people don't follow the law? And he mentioned the important words. Every single decision that's made at every single level of government is about money. How much money can we get? And if federal funding is going to be withheld to these jurisdictions for not following the law and not honoring detainers and not holding illegal aliens until the feds arrive and all of these kinds of things, then that's probably the best case scenario. You withhold their funds and then watch them comply. But the problem is we have to get it passed first. And we can't get it passed with a weak Rhino-led majority in the Senate. We can sneak it past the 1 or 2 vote majority we have in the House because we only need a simple majority. But on the Senate side, just like with the SAVE Act, we need to have support. We need all 53 members of ours, and then have to hope for 7 members of theirs for a common sense approach like this. Or else they're just going to invoke the zombie filibuster rule and never let it come to a vote. I agree with what Jim Jordan said on the SAVE Act and on legislation like this. Bring back the standing filibuster, where a person, if they want to keep debate going, thus putting off the vote,
They have to stand up there and debate. They call it a standing filibuster or a speaking filibuster. Make every Democrat take turns going up there and telling the American people why we should not have, in the SAVE Act, proof of citizenship to vote, and then proof of who you are with photo identification to vote. Make them do it. Same thing with this situation. Tell the American people why local jurisdictions and states can say we're defying federal law. We're a sanctuary. We're not going to require people to follow the law here. Make them defend it on their feet and out loud for however long it is until they collapse. And then we have the vote. And then once that happens, we can have the vote. And with a simple majority, we can pass it. That's the way. Mike Lee from Utah is the one who's been talking about the standing filibuster and the speaking filibuster, getting rid of the zombie filibuster, which is you basically just file it and say, yeah, well, we're filibustering. Everybody go home now. Well, but they don't. Make them do it and see if they actually have the stamina and the fortitude to go through with all of those things. Okay, last thing I want to do today, as I've been doing for the last several days, obviously, is remind you of tomorrow night. Bing, there it is. Want to let you know a couple of things. Number one, if you already have your reservation, your RSVP, cannot wait to see you there. It's going to be a phenomenal event. The speakers you see there are going to be great. We're going to have speakers, we're going to have games, we're going to have contests, we're going to have prizes and proceeds. A portion of the proceeds to tomorrow night's ICE appreciation event, the Frontline Freedom Fest, is going to go to the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Association, the FLEOA, the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Association. So you know what we're doing? We're putting our mouths and our money to work here. All right? We're going to do what we can to show real support for our federal law enforcement officers, including ICE. And you know what? They need it now as badly as they have ever needed it. Yesterday, and I'll come back to this in a second. And by the way, one other quick point about that. If you don't have your RSVP yet, hello, you can still do it right now. Go to bobfrantz.com. Simple as that can be. bobfrantz, FRANTZ.com. It'll take you right to the page. You'll buy your ticket. A $35 ticket is going to get you fed with heavy appetizers and a drink ticket and opportunities for more drinks. And also opportunities for ordering your own Lenten menu off of a special patriotic Catholic Lenten menu. If you're going tomorrow night, you can't have the wings and the pepperoni and sausage on the pizza. We're going to have cheese pizza, by the way, for our Lenten people as well. But and also a special themed menu that has been put together by McJames. It's going to be a great event. Your $35 ticket gets you fed. It gets you all of these speakers you saw on your screen right there, from Kursanau to Zawistowski to Windsor to Zukowski, and then me. And like I said, you're going to have contests. There's going to be 50-50s, games, videos, entertainment. It's going to be a phenomenal event. And oh, by the way, you're actually only paying $10 because your $35 ticket gets you a free $25 I Stand with Ice t-shirt as well. Yeah, that one right there. All right. So you can show everybody, not just that night on Friday night in Brook Park, but everywhere you go. Going shopping, going to the grocery store, going to work. I don't care if you're allowed to wear t-shirts. Tell everybody we are not afraid and ashamed to say we stand with ICE. Because you know what? If ICE was allowed to do its job more efficiently, if ICE was allowed to do its job more professionally, because of with the lack of the agitators, if they weren't around, you know what? People would still be alive today. Did you see the most recent one? The most recent subhuman animal, illegal alien who has been captured a number of times, who continued to be set free and not detained, who killed a woman yesterday. That story is all over the news. Illegal aliens who are here killing people should be on the government and not the current one, because they're doing everything they can to get them out. The government of Biden and Kamala Harris and Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, who just allowed all of this to happen. So do you stand with ICE or do you not? And if you say, yes, I stand with ICE, then you should want to wear that shirt. Either get it free by buying a ticket to tomorrow night's event and being there, or purchase it online also at bobfrantz.com. And we'll send one to you if you can't be there tomorrow night. You go ahead and order them up. I'll get them sent out to you personally. All right. So that's the story with tomorrow night. But there was one other element that I wanted to bring up about tomorrow night, and I may have already bypassed it. The ADD and ADHD just got a hold of me here. But I guess that's it then for now. I want you to be there tomorrow. You still have time to get your RSVP ticket, reserve your spot. There is a chance that we will sell tickets at the door. If there's any room left, we will allow people to come in and buy tickets at the door. But I would highly advise you to go ahead and RSVP, because I wouldn't want you to go ahead and be stuck standing at the door waiting while the fire code prevents you from getting in. So by all means, seriously, please consider that. This is what we do to show and the best part about it is we're not just going to show one another. We're having this thing professionally photographed. Thanks to John Tamburello. We're having this thing professionally videotaped, and it's going to be put out on our social media channels all over the place after the fact, after it's edited and post, thanks to Ron Zarnecki. We're going to not only have this event for our own entertainment and inspiration and support for law enforcement and raising money for law enforcement, the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. We're also doing it to show the rest of the country how it's done. I would like our ICE Appreciation Party to be the model. I'd like it to be the blueprint that other groups and conservatives in other parts of the country will follow and do the same thing. Let's show them. Let's give them the lift that they need to know that they're appreciated. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Sorry, I remember exactly what it was now. Elyria High School was the latest. Elyria High School yesterday, and that's in my hometown. 550 students left that building yesterday, going outside to protest and call ICE all kind of names. They did it with the encouragement and the support of the teachers' unions, the teachers themselves, and the school administrators. It happens to be a school that is ranked number 580 out of 607 schools in the state of Ohio. They need every single second of instructional time that they can get to try to lift those numbers. And instead, they're teaching their kids to be good little anarchists. Send them outside to preach and chant against law enforcement, which means against laws, which means against rules. Teaching young kids to have no rules, no laws, no boundaries, and no law enforcement authorities. How utterly irresponsible and incomprehensible is that? So that's all I've got for you today, good friends. Thank you for being a part. Thanks to both of my guests, Dr. Everett Piper and Congressman Jim Jordan. Sorry about some of the tech glitches we had today. That happens from time to time when you're, and again, we're trying to become not a one-man show. The show, though, is, we do what we're able to do. I would love to be able to hire a producer and somebody to run things, but that's when we get big enough and we get, we grow enough and we have more sponsors like our good friends at Americans for Prosperity and Keeping Medicare Simple, and donations from people like you. Join the locals community. That's the best way to help. That's the best way to help. If I get 100 people to join the locals community as paid supporters and unfiltered insiders, we will be golden. We'll be able to hire some people. We'll be able to make sure our message reaches more people. We'll be able to advertise it online in strategic locations and put us in other parts of the country as well. We can do all of that, but it takes the support of patriots and sponsors and partners. So that's what we're attempting to do. Okay, so again, thanks to Dr. Piper, thanks to Congressman Jordan, and thanks to you for being here, as always, to my chatters and to my already supportive insiders. You guys are amazing. Don't forget, keep pushing it. Send bobfrance.com to your conservative friends. Tell them, get your tickets here. And then meet us at McJames in Brook Park tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for a very, very fun and motivational event, the Frontline Freedom Festival, otherwise known as our ICE Appreciation Party. We will see you there, and we will see you then. Thanks, everybody.